Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inter Show. This episode coming out to you on the Saturday before we start the season proper with the match away to Sassuolo tomorrow evening, Italian time. Joining me from New York this week is Leon. Leon, how are you going?
Not bad, Andrew. How are you doing today? Morning,
Good,
afternoon,
thank you.
depending where you are.
Sorry?
Morning, afternoon, I guess, for you.
Mid-afternoon,
Yeah.
and it's morning for you, I believe.
Yep.
I suppose the first thing to do is the Calcio Mercato finished yesterday. What's your overriding view on the business that's been done?
I mean, I think it's fantastic. I feel some fans might have a sour taste in their mouth with the rumors of Vidal, Rafinha, or Modric not getting them. But if you look from beginning to end, the transfer market's been great. It's just that we signed so many great players so early. I feel that some people might, just not think it's as great as it was, but it was fantastic. For the areas we addressed, for the players we brought in, for the fees we paid for them, it was a great transfer market.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. And whilst I would like to see somebody who can put their foot on the ball and control a match and take the pressure off some of the players that are more dependent on pressing teams, or particularly, say, for example, Brozovic, that can struggle when he's pressed, for example, playing against an Atalanta. I do genuinely think that we've made huge strides forward. It would have been lovely had we signed Modric, but I never really believed that was going to happen. The other side of the coin as well is that we haven't gone out and bought somebody just to fill that role. I'm thinking of the likes of Palombo in the past, or when we've bought players like Scalotto that we knew from the outset that they weren't up to wearing the blue and black jersey, but we brought them in anyway, simply just to fill a role that they were never really capable of fulfilling. And the fact that the staff and Spalletti and Ausilio have actually toughed it out, and I've obviously said the guy that we want, or one of the guys that we want, is not available. So we can either go the route that we've gone before, which has failed, or we can ride it out, see how we get on. And then if we need to do something, we can do something in January rather than just bringing somebody in for the sake of it. I think that shows a great confidence going through the club. Are you disappointed that we haven't brought in sort of that playmaker midfielder, or does that not dent your confidence at all?
I mean, I personally would have liked to see Rafinha or something like that come in, but that didn't happen. He could come in the January market, who knows? But I do feel, Raja does play that role slightly a bit. If you look at where he might slot in, that could be his role. So I'm not gonna be too negative on it, because again, like you're saying, the likes of Scalotto, that caliber, every player we bought in is a quality player who fits in the team, who is an upgrade over the current position we have. So I'm not gonna dwell on that one point of not bringing an actual playmaker.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would rather that we went with what we have rather than bringing in somebody that isn't up to the quality of the other players that we've brought in. We strengthened all over the pitch. We're now no longer purely dependent on Icardi for goals. Martinez has shown great form during the summer. It's the right back and the left back slots seem to be an awful lot more secure, although Spalletti is using Asamoah as a defensive midfielder at the moment, certainly going by what we've seen across the summer. At some point, I expect him to drop back into that left back role. Visalco is obviously an upgrade on D'Ambrosio. The midfield is going to be much stronger, particularly with Nainggolan there. Politano gives us extra options, so does Keita. I'm really confident going forward. What's your target for the season? What would you expect, considering obviously the bread and butter is the league, but also the two other cup competitions that we're in?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to say the words, but I still feel Juventus wins this season. Um, but I think second place and us giving them a run, I'd be happy with. Like I if we win, amazing. But as long as we keep that game close and we keep that team close and we're in fighting for second place, we're in fighting for the championship. I think that's great. But I think second place has to be our target this year. Just look at who we are, who we become, what the team we brought in. Regarding the other competitions, I'd love to see them try hard in the Coppa Italia. I think we have a depth in our squad that we haven't had in a while. If you look at the team right now, and we don't like talking about them, but Gian Mario, Candreva, those are two quality players that aren't fitting in the team right now, which we could easily put into Coppa Italia side. We should at least make the final in that competition. And in the Champions League, that's going to be a big challenge for us. And I think, it's all going to depend on that draw because we are in pot four. But I would like to get out of there and get at least to get it to the round of 16 and see where we go.
I'd agree with you. The only thing that I would be saying is that being in that pot four, it's quite possible that you could end up with two of the biggest of the big guns, also in the group. And whilst some would accuse me of defeatism in saying this, I actually think that we could be a decent outside bet for the Europa League this year. I know that people will say, no, we need to be targeting those top two places in the Champions League group, and of course we do. And hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully the last 16 is a realistic objective. But if you suddenly find yourself in a group where you've got the likes of, let's say, Manchester City and Paris Saint-Germain are the other two big clubs in the group, it's not. I wouldn't view it as necessarily defeatism to be. I wouldn't say accept finishing third in that group, but I wouldn't look upon it as a disaster if that was what happened. And I think if we went down that avenue, I think the Europa League would be a very serious target. That said, obviously we do want to finish in those top two spaces and progress in the Champions League. I'm not saying that we start the season targeting the Europa League. I'm just saying that it could play out that way, that we drop into it, and our strengths would, the strength in depth and the players that we now have could make us give us an opportunity there. Obviously, I'm the same as everyone. I want us to go ahead and win the Champions League, but I would say more a dose of realism, a dose of pragmatism, rather than actual defeatism. Do you think there's any semblance of sense in that comment?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're in pot four, and like you said, you don't know who you're going to draw. If you get Man City and PSG, and your third team is in Ukraine or in Russia, that's always a hard away game. It's going to be really tough to come out of that group out of the top two. So, and I do think the sort of the prestige of the Europa League has gone up in the last couple of years with the big teams, making a play for it. And I do wish an Italian team would win it and would make a big push for it. Look at the final last year. It was a great final last year with two prestigious teams for Europa League. If we ended up drawing two of those powerhouse teams worth $1 billion, and it's our first year in Champions League with this group ever, this group hasn't played together in Champions League. It's going to be, it's unrealistic for us to shine. As long as we play well against those teams, I can be kind of happy with that. I don't think it's defeatism. I think it's realism.
Yeah. If we were to go in just as given the example of Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City, and let's say Lokomotiv Moscow in the group, I would be expecting, although it is tricky, and I do agree with you that going to Russia or Ukraine is always hard, I would be expecting to beat the likes of Lokomotiv Moscow home and away. If we were then to play Paris Saint-Germain and Manchester City, I would genuinely be I'd be hoping that we could beat them, of course. And I don't think that it's an impossibility that we could beat them. But I would definitely be looking at taking a few points off them. And certainly I'd be if we went down to heavy defeats, then I would be questioning the progress that's being made. But if we lost a couple of those games by a goal or two, I think we have to take that in our stride as we're moving towards progressing and being on the same level as those teams. In terms of the Coppa Italia, I'm really hoping that we can go deep into it. The club has been far too long without a trophy, and whilst, when we were winning league after league after league, the Coppa Italia was probably very much a secondary competition, certainly viewed in that sense. But having gone so long without a trophy, I really think that we should be targeting there, as I think was your point earlier on. In terms of starting at Sassuolo tomorrow, how confident are you? It's always difficult to go there, particularly as they seem to have, certainly their president, but the whole club seems to have a bee in its bonnet about Inter and raises its game substantially. Are you confident that we're going to come out with 3 points there?
I mean, history doesn't say so, but I am confident we'll come out with 3 points there. I think, them losing Politano, us getting Politano, they did some great signings this Mercato, but they're also new signings for their team. Our core is still here. Our core is still better. I do think we have the more quality side by far. Even with Skriniar not playing tomorrow, I still think we take the points. It's still good. I still say 1-0 win. It's going to be a hard-fought win, but I think we get the 3 points.
I would probably be going for the sort of 1-0, 2-1 sort of scoreline. I do think that we'll go there and win. It's going to be very tough, and it wouldn't surprise me if the winning goal came very late on in the match. Possibly, for example, springing Martinez from the bench around the 65th, 70th minute, and he changes his speed and his pure skill changes the running of the game. That's how I would see. That's how I would see it playing out. What would be your starting 11?
With Skriniar, that really hurts. Obviously, I think the back line, Handanovic, D'Ambrosio, Miranda, De Vrij, not sure who went left back there, maybe Dalbert. And then Brozovic, Politano, Icardi, and I'm not sure. Really can't say the whole starting lineup. I do think Martinez is going to start.
You think he will start?
I do, yeah. I just think, we need that spark in there. With Raja not playing, I think Martinez is going to play, and he's going to sync up with Icardi. They've just been playing so well this offseason or this preseason.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me to see, although he's used Asamoah in the defensive midfield position so far this summer, it wouldn't surprise me to see Asamoah starting at left back, possibly Veselko at right back. I'm not sure whether Spalletti will be feeling that he's only just recently come in and he needs to bring him through a bit more gradually. So D'Ambrosio could start there. Miranda, I think there could be a bit of a surprise. Miranda's not that long back from the World Cup. De Vrij will definitely nail down one of the centre-back positions. It wouldn't shock me under the circumstances with Skriniar spotting and coming back from an injury. Miranda coming back only sort of recently from the World Cup. It wouldn't shock me if Ranocchia started. with a view of having Miranda and Skriniar on the bench, simply because the situation that those two find themselves in, I think is it is difficult to start with them given the circumstances. Then I think you're probably looking at Brozovic. I'm almost certain, and that kind of goes against what I'm saying with Miranda. I do think Brozovic will will keep his place keep his place from the end of last season and start, simply because he offers us something that I don't think any other player offers us, that ability to, he's probably the most game controlling player that we have at the moment. Presuming, hoping that he keeps up his progress so far. Then I'm not sure about Gagliardini, because Gagliardini didn't perform that well over the summer. That said, he's probably the most obvious choice to go alongside Brozovic at the moment. Then I would agree with you. Yeah, I could see Martinez starting behind Icardi. And I think he may go with Candreva and would he start with Keita or Politano ahead of Perisic? Again, Perisic, I know I'm saying about Brozovic, but Brozovic is a very specific player. Perisic is only just back from the World Cup, and so it could lean to one of those two. And then you've got Icardi up front. Obviously, Handanovic in the goal. I can't see any change on that front. That's how I would see it lining out. Who are you most excited of the new signings to see playing competitive football for Inter?
Again, we have great signings, but it has to be Martinez, to see if he can take that preseason form and that preseason pace and skill and put it in, against the likes of the best defensive league in the world. We've got a guy that's is he 19, who is just lighting up the field, and he could be a new young star for us. And one of the best signings in the past 10 years, if he keeps progressing.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and absolutely agree with you on that. I've been quite surprised by his progress over the summer. It's been superb, and hopefully, once it comes to competitive football, he'll be able to keep that going. In terms of the rest of the league, you said that you see Juventus winning it, with us possibly pushing them for a long part of the season. Do you see anybody else pushing for those two top places?
No, I don't think Roma strengthened over the summer, and Napoli just has too many changes going on right now. I do think they'll be fighting for, Roma, Napoli, and AC Milan will be fighting for that third and fourth place. But I just don't see them having the consistency and the quality to overcome us or making a push towards Juventus.
I would agree. The only exception that I'd make is Napoli, and the fact that Ancelotti has gone in there. I genuinely think, as good as Sarri is, and I don't think anyone's going to question Sarri's quality as a manager, Ancelotti is a step up from, or he certainly should be a step up from Sarri, and it wouldn't shock me to see him be able to work the team into playing the way that he wants, quicker than people are expecting. That said, yeah, there are a lot of changes going on there, but he's one of the top managers in the world and has been for a very long time. So it certainly wouldn't surprise me to see him hit the ground running. In terms of the bottom end of the league, who do you think is the most likely to be facing into relegation?
I don't know. I do see Frosinone going back down. Parma's a point deduction, correct?
I think I'm not sure if I'm not sure if they're fighting it. I think I might be wrong, but I thought that they'd fought it and got it reduced to zero with some kind of fine or something. Certainly, I'm looking at the table on livescore.com just now, and there's no mention of them having minus points or a deduction. So I think they fought it out and got the decision reversed. So yeah, you've got Parma. Are you saying you've got Parma? You've got Frosinone. Who would be your third to face the drop?
I think Chievo might actually go down again. They've been up here for a while, and I think they're just going to slip down. The newcomers, Empoli back then there, I think they'll stay up. It's always tough when you get from Serie B back into Serie A. The money that comes in is not as high. You're not able to build up your squad as much. So when the three teams come in, it's always tough to stay up there.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would say, I think Parma will probably be able to stay up. They are a decent size of a club, and they seem to have gotten things back on track there. Frosinone, I think, is going to be very, very difficult for. Empoli, I think, could surprise people and finish sort of the top half of the bottom half of the league, if that makes sense. So I'd probably be looking at Frosinone, possibly Spal, and I think Udinese are in quite a messy situation. They had a really difficult season last season and only just stayed up, and they really haven't reinforced over the summer. And if anything, you could say that they've gotten weaker. So it wouldn't shock me to see Udinese go down. Just very quickly before we sign off, what's your prediction for the Champions League?
In terms of who's going to win the Champions League?
Yeah.
I just the way Man City ran over the Premier League. I never like an English team going in there, but I do think they're going to surprise people, and I'm going to tip it to Man City.
I would agree with you. I've thought for a while that the Pep got everything sorted on the domestic front last year, and with a significantly weakened Barcelona, a significantly weakened Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, who I still think it's a huge struggle to go from playing the likes Gangong at a weekend and then going and playing some of the big boys in the Champions League midweek. I still don't think I'm not even convinced that I could ever see them winning the Champions League, to be honest, because I think that the quality of football they're playing week in, week out, or the quality of football they're playing against is too weak for them really to get into the very depths of the Champions League. Juventus, I'm not convinced that Ronaldo solves all their problems. And I just think that Barcelona probably aren't as strong as they have been either. I can see Manchester City winning it, and to be honest, winning it quite comfortably, playing very attractive football in sort of the Pep style. That would be my view on it. But it's exciting. It all starts this evening. Hopefully, Chievo are going to get their relegation battle off to a flying start with 3 points and put a gloomy expression on Ronaldo's face. And hopefully, we'll start with 3 points ourselves tomorrow. In terms of the poll that we're running for Inter's Best 11 on Twitter, I'll be putting up another poll in the next day or so. Esteban Cambiaso won the Regista role with 86%. Luisito Suarez got 7%. Juan Sebastian Veron got 7%, and Patrick Vieira got 0%. was that the result that you were expecting, or does it surprise you in any way?
No, it does. I mean, Choo was our player in that role. Like he symbolized our, our team. That's been one of the sour points of the past few years when they let him go. I think just a little bit too early when we needed a talisman, we needed a captain. I think he should have stayed on 2 to 3 more years and given him captaincy and have him retire with the club.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. But I imagine I can really see him coming back as manager at some point in the future. He always played as though he had an extremely developed technical brain, and I could see him, if he chooses to go down that route. I know he does a lot of television work at the moment, on, I think it's Sky Italia, but if he goes into that role, I can see him being a success, and I think that could be how and when he returns to the club. My thanks to Leon for joining me this week. I'll sign off and say Forza Inter, and we'll be back with a review of the match of tomorrow evening.
That sounds great. Forza Inter.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.